Bueno, como moderador de este panel, yo voy a hacer todas las preguntas a señora Mangala Wickramanayake en español y obviamente tú vas a contestarlo en inglés con la interpretación. Sri Lanka es un país bastante interesante para nosotros aquí en Colombia porque se acabó la guerra civil hace exactamente 9 años. Pero todavía, como pude observar cuando te visité en Sri Lanka, hay mucho que lograr para una verdadera reconciliación. Y Mangala, que trabaja para el Ministerio del Ambiente, ¿nos puedes contar cómo pasó en Sri Lanka, único país del mundo donde el presidente de la República, jefe de Estado, en mismo tiempo ministro del Ambiente? Yo no conozco ningún otro ejemplo de este tipo en el mundo. ¿Nos puedes contar cómo se tomó esta decisión?
First of all, I would like to, because I would like to tell about the war a little bit, because without knowing about the war situation, it's very hard you to understand the reconciliation process. I will be back to the reconciliation process. But our country's war is very much different from your country's war. It's not, there are different dimensions of wars in all over the world, and it's different way of, religious wars, poor and rich wars, and likewise. But in my country, we don't have, we have little bit of extremely rich people, but at the same time, we don't have very poor people as well. So it's sort of everybody has something to eat and place to stay, and so it's sort of a middle income level, more or less 95% of the country. So the power, our war was not against poor or rich. It's with to minority and majority. The minority wanted 1/3 of the resources of the country. That was the starting point. So nobody compromises that, because you can't give 2/3 of the shoreline and 1/3 of the country. So it dragged on 30 years. But nobody thought it's going to be ended. But after 30 years, fighting for 30 years, the problem was solved completely. The rebels were destroyed. I think it's violent, but somehow government had to take a decision for the sake of the community in the country. So it was completely destroyed, and the first few years, the government pumped a lot of money we spent on war to develop the area, basically the main infrastructure, roads, because no houses were there because it was shell bombarded and people were in jungles and they didn't have any houses. So the complete roads, telecommunication, electricity, water, and temporary houses were given at that time, but permanent houses were given, not really given, but the money was spent in the areas to rehabilitate the entire area. So the question is, how can you tell me in English? Because
yes, of course. Well, my first question to you is actually that it is quite interesting that you are, to the best of my knowledge, only country in the world where the President of the Republic is at the same time Minister of Environment, which I think is a telling example of the importance, I guess, a symbolic gesture to emphasize the importance of the protection of environment in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, Yeah, so the environmental protection actually, as I told you about, 30 years war, one third of the country and two third of the shoreline was not touched because those who are suffering with the war had other priorities. So they didn't destroy the nature environment in that area. While the non-war area, we have sort of within 3 decades, 30 years, environment was degraded. So the president became like environmental minister, and I became head of the government institution of the environmental ministry. So what I did was, because I don't be, I believe not I'm not 100% believe that uh, just you can't personally start to change the world, but you can start to change yourself and the surrounding. So as my organization, I pumped a lot of money on environmental protection, and keep the environment, because that pristine environment preserved for 30 years, and we could better plan, and we could better zone, and we could give better benefits. So in that sense, we as a government department, we took the initiative to establish the environmental baselines, environmental regulations, environmental awarenesses, and a lot of other campaigns in that area.
And I remember, because I visited with you the northern part of the country where the Tamil Tigers used to operate. That was the part of the country that basically wanted independence. And I know that you have had some very imaginative solutions of trying to help reconciliation through environmental projects. So maybe you can just share this with us, what you have done and what you are doing still.
Yeah, exactly. Because people generally are greedy, so they don't if they don't have benefit, they question everything. Why you are here, why is any NGO paying money to be here, uh, why you are interested in this area. So they suspect you. So if they get any benefit from environmental management or something like that, then they believe in you. So reconciliation, the key is to build up trust. So to build up trust, you can't just go and preach. You can't say that no, you have to forget everything and now you start moving like this. So preaching doesn't help, but you have to do actual work. You have to do something to build up initially confidence, and then uh, it's not a overnight process. It's a long process. So as a as an engineer, so they didn't have expertise, because most of the educated people in that area migrated or fled to in a different part of the world. So they don't have, still they don't have much expertise in the region. But it's a hard work for us, because traveling 10 hours and stay there in unknown places, no, totally a different language, we can't communicate, like we are in Cartagena, so it's difficult for us. But even our community in the majority in cities, they don't want to go also, because it's a tedious process, and sometimes people also work on benefits. They ask, I spend 2-3 days there and just come back. I have my family to look after, my kids are waiting, and likewise. And also the majority, when there's a scholarship to go United States or Australia or some other country, they just, without any question, they just go. So it's sort of selfishness. Like, so likewise, the other parties, other areas of the country, like affected areas, they also want some benefit. So for that, because for the employment sector, government has not much spent on them, but they try to educate them. But I honestly believe that people need some sort of a income. income to stand on their own feet. So we have to establish the income generation through environmental protection. Like fisheries is because 2/3 of the shoreline is there. So fisheries is the main activity. They could, self-sustain and they could earn money. So fisheries ministry spend a lot of on boats. They have given boats, but infrastructure was not built, so they can't just keep the boat on the shoreline and do fishing. So as initiatives, because I specialized in coastal and harbor engineering, my department is coast conservation department. So they, without knowledge, they damaged the coral reefs, which saved them from the tsunami in 2004. So we got a lot of communication, lot of education, awareness, and work with them. In fact, that is the most key, to work and to give some facilities to them, because then only they believe you and they come to you when they have a problem. Because if they believe you, then they ask, what should we do, but we don't have money, where can we get money, like. So at the same time, we took embassies, those who have supported the war. Actually, war is not happening just overnight. War is driven by somebody. Because it's a cycle. In this some part of the world, there's a war at all, right through, because some countries, they prepare ammunition. Because most of the Sri Lankan war was supported by especially India, and also all the ammunitions came for money, came from France. So they have ammunition factories. They have rocket launch. Yeah, all rocket launchers, and all these ammunitions are made by somewhere else. So it's a business at the end. It's a business for governments, because when you buy ammunitions in large scale, it's sort of in my country, also corrupt in the political level. So it's a business. Luckily, we were very lucky that one government took a correct decision to, finish the war.
You're quite right. The war is, amongst other things, a very profitable business. And we do know that many wars are actually at regional level, particularly waged in order to try new weapons and in order to enrich those who manufacture them. But I would just like you to perhaps give us one example where a concrete project, and I know that when I visited you in Sri Lanka, we talked about coastal zone management for fishermen, that actually made a difference to regain the confidence of the people who felt in the northern part of the country that they were not listened to in Colombo, the capital.
Yeah, so this is something like, we have, as I told you earlier, because that environmental is very, preserved for 30 years, lot of fish, lot of mangrove forest, lot of nice sand barriers. It's beautiful area. So what we did was, make a coastal zone management plan, install the baseline. That was very hard them to understand, at that time, why they install a baseline. They don't know what baseline was, because in the other part of the country we all have scientific information, GIS information. For that you have to install a baseline. So we did it during Trump, just after the war. We couldn't go because all landmines everywhere. So once they clear up 1 meter of strip to the beach, we went and installed the baseline. So that came to their mind that even with this hard work, bombs and landmines, these people come in groups and install with scientific instruments and survey equipments. We install the baseline. Based on these base maps, in 2013 we prepare zoning plans. Like, otherwise they destroy that environment as well as other part of the country. So we zone tourism areas, agricultural areas, fishery related areas, recreational areas, and likewise. So when they see the plan without spending a single cent, it's in all small divisional secretaries and village community level government officers. Then it's automatically come to their mind that they do something for us rather neglecting us.
Now, in case of Sri Lanka, you did not have a peace agreement as such.